welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. Today I have with me a very special guest, Anuraag Saxena of India Pride Project. And it's been my fortune to have known Anuraag for more than a year now. Today is the first time we are meeting person to person.
Exactly, and it's such an honor and a pleasure.
So we formed what I would call as a mutual admiration society. What he has accomplished by bringing our gods home, he has risked life and limb along with your friend Vijay Kumar, and I'm sure there are other people now who are coming online. And it's truly remarkable. Viewers, you probably remember Narendra Modi going to Australia, bringing back some idols, and then going to United States with 206 idols?
200 plus.
200 plus.
Viewers, yeah.
Yes. So all these took years of research. They had to go through methodically to figure out that a particular idol that was there in a certain temple somewhere in the deep south or somewhere else in India had been smuggled out of there. They had to correlate the fact that a particular idol had these characteristics from books written over maybe even 100 years sometimes. So a lot of work, and I tip my hat to you. This is not something that's easily explained. And we're going to talk about a little bit more about the effects of what happens when a certain god leaves a certain temple. So Anuraag, welcome to PGurus channel.
It's my absolute pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for doing this. And hopefully, as a heads up to viewers, this will be a conversation which will get interesting as we go along, so they watch it through to the end.
Yes. So, first thing is, we both have been part of these temple loot series that has been happening in NewsX, and we've been uncovering a lot of interesting things. Now, we have various kinds of things happening. First off, the idol itself gets looted, and that has some dire consequences. In that, what we have found is that when you are talking about small villages where the temple is sort of the congregation place where everybody comes to meet, it's like a daily occurrence. In fact, I lived in the city, I lived in Secunderabad, and my parents, rain or shine, they were there at the temple, sometimes twice a day.
Yeah.
So it's just a habit. And even I used to, as a student, I used to go because I wanted to ask God, good luck for my exams and all that. But it's something that, it's in your DNA, so people go congregate in temples. So when a certain murti goes missing, the first thing that happens is slowly people stop going to the temple. So that nerve center kind of starts dissipating, it disbands, and then this place becomes ripe for conversion. Now, this is just one instance that has been noticed, and it is noticed pan-India, not just in one state or the other. So, Anuraag, what has been your experience when you've been looking at all these idols? I know a lot of the things were unearthed in Tamil Nadu, but I think you've also been looking at other states too, right?
Yes, so I think so there's a couple of angles to this. You're absolutely right, where I was having this conversation very recently with the lady at BBC who was covering some of our work there. When I was trying and explaining to her, that look, a temple is not a place of worship for Hindus or for Indians, right? It's only after the British came, they drew a parallel with a church where they said, hey listen, we go to the church to pray, so Indians go to a temple to pray. But if you look at the Agama Shastra point of view, a temple was supposed to have multiple roles. There were schools there were libraries there, a repository of information, there were clearing houses for financial disputes, there were markets there. You're an Iyer, so you know the concept of kacheris.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
The whole concept of kacheris, which we call Vaad Vivaad or Tark Vitark,
Right.
originated in temples, and
Yes.
the temple was a space where all these things would happen. And unlike in a city where you and I would meet at a mall or a restaurant or a picture hall, villages still, it is a community center more than a place of worship. And in villages and small towns where there's no alternate place for society to get together, destroying a temple by either vandalizing the murti or stealing it away or whatever it is, actually destroys the only place the society has to get together. Right? So you're literally kind of ripping the social fabric apart and opening it up for a bunch of unscrupulous elements to take over. And I think that's a larger problem, which unfortunately, people in urban towns refuse to understand. But yeah, so I think your opening point was absolutely right, where we ourselves don't understand how critical temples were temples are to the Indian way of life. As I don't know who it was, somebody had said that India lives in 3 different centuries at the same point of time. It is a reality, right? Now coming to your point, this problem is not limited to Tamil Nadu alone or Rajasthan alone or whatever. It is more prominent because Tamil Nadu happens to be the only state where the police has an idol wing. So there is somebody in Tamil Nadu that is officially responsible for bringing stolen heritage back. But it's equally a problem everywhere else. I mean, Rajasthan, North Gujarat, Mount Abu as an example. I don't know if viewers knew this. All of us read about Mount Abu back in school. Not even one of the murtis in Mount Abu is original. I don't know if you knew this.
I didn't know that.
All of them have been stolen and removed. And this is official, yeah? So this ASI has put this out in the public domain. All the murtis in Mount Abu have been removed and replaced by, duplicates, replacements, whatever you want to call them. So yeah, the problem is pretty rampant. The problem is not just academic or a research problem. There is a lack of awareness. There is a lack of traction from the government. And when I mean the government, I mean people who run the government, agnostic to political parties. So there's all levels of challenges we're dealing with.
And viewers, there has been a series of 2 articles by a very famous astrologer come scientist, Dr. Jayashree Sarnath, and I don't know if you've read about her. So she has taken a very specific topic. I'm sorry to digress.
No, please do. Yeah.
Because this is about the temples.
This is when conversations are fun. This is when they stop becoming boring.
Yes.
And, we go all over the place.
Right. So she talks about why when women are menstruating that they should not come to the temple. And she has a very scientific reason for this. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag. I will try and put the links as part of this video. I'd urge your viewers to read that thing as to why women kept away from temples when they were menstruating. Back to the point of HRNC that exists in idol wing that exists in Tamil Nadu. You probably have worked with Pon Manikavelu, right?
So yeah, I know you know this, but just for viewers to be very clear, HRNC and idol wing are two very different things.
Yeah, glad.
Very, very different things. I might go to the extent of saying that one is the hero and one is the villain. In India, you should frame everything in Bollywood terms.
Yes. Ramayana.
Ramayana.
Every Bollywood movie is a reenactment of Ramayana.
No, but seriously, I mean, an officer like Pon Manikavelu. And at this point, I'd like to also mention 2 more people. There's a stellar advocate by the name of Mr. Elephant Rajendra, who has been fighting a lot of these cases pro bono. He doesn't charge a penny. And then there's, of course, Justice Mahadevan, who has been, on one end we talk about overreach of judiciary and judicial activism. On the other end, there are people like Justice Mahadevan, who are just doing what is morally right. There are a lot of things that are morally right or legally right, but they don't get enforced. My hats off to Justice Mahadevan for actually doing it, and I think which is why we see so much of attraction in Tamil Nadu, where the rest of the country chooses to ignore an issue. Top level IAS officers don't understand what is going on, but because of Pon Manikavelu ji, because of Elephant Rajendran ji, because of Justice Mahadevan, a lot of the lost glory is being restored, and I think that's a great template for other states to replicate.
That's great to know. And viewers, you may have read our series about India Pride Project. It came about 18 months ago.
Yes, that's right.
You had met with one of our writers, another IR, and she had done an excellent job of detailing what happens from end to end, like what. And there was one of the things where I think we had added a picture when the idol actually came back to the temple, how the whole village came back to life. It's all those colorful things. Why don't you talk us through a little bit about that?
It's very interesting, right? So, and I'm going to digress to make the.
This is chai pe charcha.
Without chai. So by the way, I'm married to another Iyer, and I can vouch for the fact that these guys are cheap. But there was this antiquities bill which was proposed in 2017. I will not get into why it was a terrible bill for any form of heritage. But the one point, there's this common friend of ours, Sai Deepak. So he and I had written a rebuttal, sent it to the ministry, and we are glad that there's a government that finally listens and they actually stopped that bill. It was sent to all the members of parliament. It was published multiple places. There is no differentiation legally in India between an heritage object and an object of faith. So in the eyes of law, a 200-year-old watch that your grandfather left you, or a 100-year-old watch that your grandfather left you, is exactly as valuable as a 2,000-year-old murti from a living temple, which I think is blasphemy, right?
That's true.
And so people don't really, and even the law doesn't acknowledge for the fact that our temples are still living. I was shocked, and I've talked about this multiple times. As per law, Mahabalipuram is not a temple, Hampi is not a temple, right? But you ask anybody, where did you go? He says, I went to the Hampi temple. But as per the law, these are monuments, right? So I think there's a lack of recognition in law, especially about the effect that it has on society. Now, this particular temple, and we've seen this multiple times over, when the murti goes away, or any other form of vandalism happens, which is a little more structured. The vandalism is more structured in places like Tamil Nadu and Kerala and coastal Andhra as an example. The social fabric is absolutely torn. The need for people to go to temples goes away because there's nothing for darshan, so why would you go there? Which ensures that the 20 other things that were happening in a temple also go away. Some of the letters we have received have been so, you would cry reading those, right? I mean, we get these emails saying that, hey, listen, I'm from so-and-so place, my grandfather's Shraddh happened at that temple, my parents got married at that temple, my Annaprashanam happened at that temple, we go back every few years for the Kul Devta,
Right.
But, last year the Murti was stolen. So now our family has no reason to go back. So, there's a lot of people's lives, individuals' lives, families' lives, and then communities' lives that actually change when a temple loses an object of faith, which in my view is a little more important than any other heritage object. If something's gone from a fort or a museum, that also should come back. But on priority, I think our faith object should come back. Why? Because it restores the dignity back of those people. It's very interesting, right? And maybe this is a good example or a good homework for your viewers, right? Ask people where your last name comes from. It will root back. It doesn't matter if you're an atheist today. It doesn't matter who you are. It roots back to some Devi, Devta, temple, something like that. Now you're taking that away, right? It's like taking away Bollywood from Karan Johar's life, or it's like taking away food from Sanjeev Kapoor's life.
Right.
So for people, for a whole bunch of India, for whom their faith and temples are very intrinsic to their individual lives, it's a huge tear. And once a murti comes back, you can see a huge, it's a festival.
Yes.
Women wear new saris, men wear new clothes, you have flower sellers selling flowers, you have a balloon wala, so
It's built up its ecosystem.
Yeah, it's built up so we're very fascinated to be on this process. And interestingly, obviously because you're an intellectual, so I have to provide data at some point. But, just to give you some data, between 1947 and 2013, that's roughly 65 years.
Right.
India had only 13 murtis or 13 heritage objects coming back. So 65 years divided by 13, which is roughly one every 5 years.
Right.
In the last 5 years, India has been offered 234. Now think of the spike.
But it's all you guys.
No. But I'm serious. It's not us guys at all. There's a lot of people. I say this all the time. हमको credit नहीं चाहिए boss, हमको मूर्तियाँ चाहिए.
Yes.
The credit, I'll tell you who it goes to. It goes to Pulmanik ji. It goes to the central government. Right. I mean, at the end of the day, without it sounding like a political statement, Modi ji has chosen to be a head of state who personally recovers these murtis.
Yes.
And he's in the conversations. He's, he can send somebody 5-level junior to him to say, okay, please go to that museum and bring it back. To me, it's a huge act of statesmanship to get an Angela Merkel or a Tony Abbott to return the murti to the Indian head of state.
Right.
It shows India's negotiating position. It shows India's geopolitical position. 10 years back was Indian prime ministers used to wait in line to shake hands with with the European head of state.
Yes.
You remember that, right?
Right.
So there'll be the president of Ghana, president of Nigeria, head of Cambodia, head of India, blah blah blah. Right? Today, if you and I mean, if you are a head of state, I'm a head of state. If you are apologizing to me, giving back what your country stole from me, then clearly I become a little higher than you in terms of.
Absolutely.
It's reclaiming of that Vishwaguru status, which to me is more interesting.
That's absolutely true. I mean, these are all unsung stories which mainstream media chooses to ignore. And I tip my hat to Prime Minister Modi for having taken this initiative.
Yep.
And it's not easy, and it's also a lot of bulldog-like persistence.
Yes.
I know some of the work that has gone behind getting this 200 odd murtis from the United States. Now, let's say they have come back to India. Have they gone back to their temples now, or what is the process there?
So that is battle number 2. And this is where, so I'm going to be rude and look into the camera because this is a message for the viewers. Our big problem, our battle number 1 was bringing back our heritage that belongs to us. At a national level, that has started happening. It is not happening at a local level. Sorry. So whether it was a fort or a museum or a church or a gurudwara or a Jain temple or a Hindu temple does not matter. My view on this is very simple. Let's say you're from Secunderabad. In which temple did your parents go to?
Skandagiri temple,
Okay.
Subramanya. Yeah.
Okay, so if there is a Skandagiri temple from where a murti has been taken, whether it is in a museum in New York or New Delhi, it does not matter. Both are equally offensive. Because that temple was made for the local community, by the local community or the king or the ruler at that time, with a particular purpose in mind. That purpose is not being served if the murti does not go back to that temple. So what we are saying is that, which again our common friend Ananda Shankar Jayant, she came up with this line and it stuck with me, which is history belongs to its geography. And I think it's such a powerful line. Right? And that's the next fight where we want your viewers to be with us, to start pressurizing your local member of parliament, to start pressurizing your state government, etc. They need to start demanding from the central government that, hey, listen, this is Skandagiri ka murti, this belongs to Secunderabad, or to Rajasthan, or to UP, or to Assam, or to Maharashtra, wherever it is. And that's the next battle which we've already started, and it will take another few years, but eventually we will win it.
I just remembered something that you mentioned in the previous comment, which is that your name tells you the devata that you are praying, or you used to pray to, or your Kuladevta. Take the name of Lata Mangeshkar. She is from this place called Mangesh, which is it's in the state of Goa, somewhere between Goa and Vasco da Gama. If you go on that road, it comes in the middle. So the murti is Mangesh, it's Ishwar ki murti.
That's right.
And because the Kar part is Marathis, that to say I am from this place. So that's how the name comes. Mangesh, you are absolutely right. So if you go back and do the research, you will figure out that this is how it is, and this is where this is my Kuldevta. You can really easily figure this out. So so back to the.
Sorry, and can I just I don't know how this. I remember this. Another again of our common friends, right, Professor Vaidya.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yes.
He has this brilliant example of why he hates Delhi, and I might be paraphrasing on his behalf. So, sir, sorry if you are watching this. Maybe you don't hate Delhi, but in most other cities, when people ask you for directions, they say, okay, go to this hospital, take a turn, go to that temple, take a turn, etc., etc. Professor Vaidyanathan says fascinatingly that if you're in Delhi and you ask for directions, they'll say, okay, go to Humayun's tomb, then turn, then go to Nizamuddin tomb, then turn, da, da, da. And he says everything in Delhi is contextualized around some dead person's memorial, right? And of course, he says this tongue in cheek, but the fear I have is that all our heritage is going to become like that. It will become dead, right? So what we see it within our own lifetimes, right? Where you don't want our children to be giving directions and saying, turn left from where that old temple used to be.
Yeah.
Right. Or turn left from or turn right from where that you'll see these ruins, What ruins? So that there was a grand temple 50 years back, but
right.
It's now ruins. Right. People go there and scrub, Akbar loves Sunita and goes home. Right. So I think that attitude needs to change. And it will not happen top down. It
has to happen
it has to happen bottom up. Unless there are enough people asking for it, it's not going to happen.
So once Anuraag and his team, Vijay and everybody else, once he gets these smoothies back to your village, guard it with your lives. I mean, this is really, really important. Don't let it get out of sight. And these days with closed circuit cameras and triggers and things like this, it's not very expensive to maintain these things. Yeah. And there is definitely a group that is after all these murtis, because this is not just a matter of making money. I mean, I'm telling you, there's much more insidious work at play. And remember one thing, all of us viewers, we should remember, when the Mughals conquered India or when the British conquered India, you knew who your adversary was. Today, your adversary is within you. Many of them don't even tell what their religion is. I keep saying this thing and I don't understand why others don't point it out. A certain member of the Rajya Sabha, he goes by the name D. Raja. Nobody asks him what the D stands for. He's a communist party, fine. He's an atheist, fine. Why hide what the D means? So, I'm sorry, we're kind of going here, there. We're back to... so, what is the next step now? I mean, this process has started. How many more murtis like this are in the pipeline you think that have been identified where we have to start working on? You also have this other problem where you bring it back and something else goes out. Yeah. So we have to address the going out part also, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, the thing with, and because both of us live outside India,
right,
we can compare and contrast. Now the thing with India is, it is such a huge country, so many people, so many angles, so many dynamics, so many points of view. There is never a simple problem in India, right? We find ways to complexify a problem.
And to paraphrase Professor Arbi on that, only in India you will find a tunnel at the end of every light. Please continue.
That's a good one. Right? And you're right. So, I don't think there is, while some people believe and they're very optimistic, I don't think there is one umbrella solution that can stem this, right? To me, there are three big problems we're trying to deal with right now, right? One is the issue of communities losing their heritage. So that's a very finite, well-scoped issue. The second is the issue of terror funding through stolen heritage. You know, that ISIS actually steals heritage from all over the world and makes money to throw a bomb back at you. The third, which is our biggest issue, is a lack of understanding of issues A and B. And that is what we are trying to solve right now. You know, there have been people who, you know, like Dr. Kirit Mankoti, right? For the last 30 years, he's been, you know, Hindi mein bolte hain na, chilla chilla ke unka gala sook gaya, right? You know, he's been doing fascinating work and research on what has been taken from where, when, how, where is it today, etc. But nobody listens, right? I think it's time, and I think it is especially true to, you know, I'm assuming you're with the right wing, right? I think the specific challenge with the right wing is, you know, we focus a lot on ideas, right? So everybody is talking about theoretical solutions, right? Doesn't matter whether you believe in the Kashmiri Pandit issue or the right to education issue or Ram Mandir or Sabarimala, whatever, you know, whatever rocks your boat, right? there are ideas. Nobody moves beyond that to even inputs. कि करना क्या है? Beyond that is implementation, and we are ages away, right? We are wasting a lot of time in outraging on Twitter, on claiming victimhood, and all these things which used to be typical JNU tactics. Right. We're replicating all of that. Nobody is thinking much about solutions, right? So, what I'm hoping, like I said, there's a lot of loss of community's faith, there's terror funding, and there's a lack of understanding of these two. That is something which I'm hopeful we will be able to solve within our lifetimes as a finite problem, and then move on to the other issues. For example, how do you stem? Like what happened in Hampi now, right?
Yeah, those miscreants pushing up the pillars.
They're not miscreants, boss. I mean, they're the worst form of gali you can have. Imagine something that has survived for a few thousand years.
Yes.
And these morons, right? And they should be ashamed of. I mean, not their whole family should be. If they were from my family, I would have disowned those buggers. Their families need to get together to disown these buggers. Right. Baad mein case needs to go to court and they need to go to jail and all of that, right? But imagine them doing this in any other part of the world, right? Where there is some other form of law, their hands would be cut off, right? It is because they are in India, these guys are behaving like this. But I think, so we are here to solve a finite problem. What I would hope is people who are nationalists, people who are patriotic, whatever you tag yourself as, right? Take up a lot of these other sub-projects and say, hey, let's run with it, right? A lot of people who are currently outraging, at some point should get tired of outraging and say, hey, listen, I really want to deliver that change, not just complain about it. Right? Some people who are claiming victimhood should stand up and say, hey, boss, we've been victims for way too long.
Right.
We're a strong country now, we are prosperous, we are educated, we are finding our place in the world.
Right.
So why don't we go ahead and move from being victims to being heroes?
Yes.
That's a change I would like to trigger. And I don't know if we are a template or not, but
You know what they say, right? A long journey begins with a small step.
Absolutely.
And I'm 100% sure that you have taken several small steps. Now the steps are becoming bigger. The journey is, we've already mapped out the path. And I wish you and your team all success. And we'll be back hopefully soon with more such interesting topics and talks. Thank you very much, viewers, for listening to Anuraag. Anuraag, it was a pleasure having you on our show.
It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.